Hello, welcome to another episode of Vintage Lunchbox Reviews, the show in which I review some of my vintage lunchboxes. It's right there in the name. Today we're going to look at a lunchbox that a little bit predates my lunchbox carrying days, but it is a movie that I grew up watching. I absolutely love this movie. I was a big fan. I grew up on all the Disney animated films. And this is just absolutely a classic. It's one that there are many songs that are still on the tip of my tongue today. And of course, I'm talking about the 1967 Disney classic, The Jungle Book. So here we have The Jungle Book. The Jungle Book was released in 1967. Now, oddly, when I looked this lunchbox up for information, every website says this was released in 1966, even though the movie came out in 1967. So it seems odd that this would have come out before the movie was released. I'll tell you, if you do any of this sort of stuff, retro digging and researching and things like that, what you'll find a lot of times is that someone along, down the line put a wrong date or a wrong name or a wrong piece of information, and then you will see that replicated on every other website. You'll see it hundreds and hundreds of times. So I gotta trust IMDb that says the movie came out in 1967. That makes me question whether this lunchbox came out actually in 1966 or 1977 or 67, but it's really a moot point. The movie, you probably remember, we've got a lot of the characters from the movie here. We've got Bagheera, the panther. We've got Baloo, the bear. On the other side, we have even some more figures, but most importantly, we have Mowgli, the man cub, right? And then, of course, there were lots of bad guys in the movie too, which we'll see on some of the sides. We had Shere Khan, the tiger, and Kaa, the snake. Kaa was one of the very first characters in any TV, film, cartoon movie that I remember hearing a voice and saying, that kind of sounds like somebody else I know. And of course, Kaa the snake, that's Kaa, was voiced by Sterling Holloway, who also did the voice of Winnie the Pooh. So, of course, in this movie, he has his little snake lisp. He was also the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. So, very famous voice actor. Anyway, let's take a look here. It's a little bit washed out here. I'm going to try to adjust things here just slightly. But anyway, what we've got here is a Jungle Book. Again, you can see there's Baloo the bear, who was my favorite character from the movie. He's got these bananas up here. That was a big part. Then we've got Mowgli, and then we've got the girl who appears late in the film. She kind of lures Mowgli out of the jungle and into the human village. And then, of course, we've got Bagheera over there, who is Bagheera's kind of the voice of reason in the movie. And then Baloo is the aloof bear who sings all about all you need in life are the bare necessities. I need the bare necessities, simple bare necessities. I love this movie. So this is a fun, little fun thing. We've got all the main players here in the movie, all the good guys at least. And then on the backside here, we've got Baloo. We've got some random animals here. We've got Mowgli down here dancing with the girl, and then over on the side, instead of instead of Bagheera, we've got King Louie. Now, I'm the king of the swimming pool, the jungle VIP. I know every song for this movie. I love this movie. Again, this came out in, the movie came out in 67. Predates me. I was a kid of the late 70s, and definitely I consider myself to be an 80s kid, So most of my childhood of taking lunchboxes and stuff would have been late 70s, and then throughout maybe the first half of the 80s. So a lunchbox from 1966 or 1967 probably just predates me just a little bit. So this isn't one that me or I or my friends would have taken to school, but it's definitely a movie I grew up seeing. We had these Disney movies would get replayed over and over. They would come back to theaters. We would see them in the drive-in. We would see them, in theaters, and then, eventually they started getting released on VHS. I'm sure if you've been to any thrift store in America, you've seen all those Disney movies on clamshells. So, just a classic film. We've got our artwork, and this is going to show you a little bit that this lunchbox is a little older than some of the other ones I've shown on the channel. And what you can see here, I mean, we've got, obviously, this is the, I always talk about this is the artwork that's hidden underneath the handle here, But the artwork that's on the side of this box, if you look at it, I mean, we've got the characters, right? Like, we've got Mowgli. There's Kaa, the snake, if you can see Kaa right there on the corner. We've got Mowgli and the girl, and like I said, this wraps around just like all those other ones. But it's not the same kind of artwork. It's not like what we saw on the Pac-Man lunchbox or on the Gremlins lunchbox, if you didn't watch those videos. This almost looks like clip art or something. What it's really missing is a busy background. It's just a white kind of background with light, pictures or hints of jungle, like hints of tree leaves and things like that. And then, there's Shere Khan. We've got the other characters. But it's not that same kind of, maybe advanced artwork. I don't know. This is very cartoony, like the cartoon, but it's not. Some of the other artwork on the other lunchboxes I've looked at were airbrushed in like big scenes, so it's like a specific scene from the movie, and this one is not that way. This one is literally just characters parading in a line as they're going all the way around there. So it would have been okay, I think, if I were a kid. If you're going to lunch and you go, oh, there's Baloo, there's Shere Khan or whatever. So you would have all the characters to look at, but they're not those fun kind of scenes that appeared on the other lunchboxes. So it's just a little bit older style, and you can kind of see that when you look at this versus the other ones, and you can see how these things have evolved. I like to talk about the color combos, and this is an interesting one because we can see that there's a lot of white on this. There's white, on the sides with the graphics and stuff. We do have a green color that surrounds this one, but what's interesting is that the handle is white. So the handle kind of matches the other white that's on here. Interesting that they didn't use a green handle to tie into that color, but maybe the green on the handle would have been a slightly different shade of green and it wouldn't have matched or something, so I'm not really sure. We're going to look inside here, and this is something, a couple of interesting things. Again, this is kind of dating it. This is Aladdin brand, just like all the other ones that I've shown so far. Normally there was the diagram in here to show you where to put the thermos, and you can see there's no diagram. But instead, we have a lot of printing on the inside label, which hasn't been on the other ones. And what it is, it's like a big warning thing. It's safety, like what not to do with a lunchbox. Don't hit other kids in the head with it. All these safety things. And then we actually have diagrams over on the other side there, like, here's safety kind of stuff to do with a lunchbox. So that's something that got dropped over time. We don't see that in the later lunchboxes. We don't have safety warnings on them. I guess they figured at some point, if you're old enough to carry a lunch, you should just know how they work. Don't hit your friends in the teeth with it. Now, the other thing that I do have that this lunchbox came with is this very cool thermos. Now, again, we have this same kind of artwork. We just have the characters parading around, right? So we have all that now. It also very prominently says Jungle Book, but it also, of course, right above there says Walt Disney's. And you can see, that's in the Disney style logo there. So we've got all our characters. We've got Blue, we got Bagheera. There's the elephants that appear in the movie that go through there. We see there's the orangutans, King Louis and his crew. All they want is the secret to fire so they can be more like man. But anyway, so very colorful, more of an artistic style that we would see on the later lunchboxes, I think. So kind of an in-between one. The cap on this is different than the ones we've seen before. On all the other caps, this middle part is cut out and hollow, but this one is solid, which probably, gave it a little bit more structure, made it a little bit more rigid. But it's weird because on the other ones, you hold it like a cup, like with your finger, almost like a trigger guard, So we've got this white lid. Now this looks different than all the other ones that we've seen. And the reason why is because this is not a plastic thermos. This is a steel, metal, and glass thermos. So this is a layer of steel, and then it has glass insulation inside. So these were a different technology than the later ones. And most of the thermoses switched over around like in the early 70s, like 72, 73. In fact, one of my viewers asked a question about the Hair Bears lunchbox, which was released 2 times. It was released in 71 and again in 73, and it has 2 different thermoses. And the older thermos is this style, and then the newer thermos is the plastic style. So that kind of seems like when they were switching over would have been in the early 70s. So again, this predates that. We can see that the cap here is different. There's no pouring mechanism. That came with the plastic ones later on. And when we look, I should have, hold on. So, dodge another bullet. But what's interesting is this has no smell at all. This is, it just smells like nothing. So it's not like those plastic ones that have the plastic, the plastic odor that's been in there. But if you can see in there, it's just metal is what we're looking at, right? So it would definitely metal and glass is a good insulator. Metal, this would definitely keep a drink cold all day or something warm all day. But these were more fragile, right? They're easy to dent. The glass inside, I believe you could break them if you fell or dropped this enough times. And obviously this is going to be much more expensive to mass produce than a vacuum form plastic thing, because all the other ones would be the same with just a decal stuck over them, so that would be just cheaper evolution and technology, which is kind of how the world works. So again, this lid, you can see there's no pouring spout like we've seen on the other ones. That screws back on there. This screws back on there, and this goes in there. I love Disney movies. I grew up, again, in 70s, 80s. So all those Disney movies I grew up watching, and I grew up wanting to be Baloo. That's all I wanted to do, was float on my back on a river. And man, you go out there and you live a good life, and the bare necessities will come to you. At least that's what Baloo taught us. So anyway, fun lunchbox, Jungle Book, great artwork on both sides. This is relatively, this is more expensive than some of the other ones. This is probably a $75 to $100 lunchbox at this point. Maybe not in the condition. And this one's actually in pretty good condition, all things considered. But the ones that are a little bit older, once you get into the 60s, the prices definitely go up. So anyway, thanks for checking out this box from my collection. Tune in tomorrow around lunchtime, where we'll see what is next on the menu.